Hi and welcome back to Real Talk Fitness with AMPT. For those of you that are just jumping on and listening, I'm your host, Ashley Cummins, and I've created this podcast to create information from real life people to hear what it's like from their journey from the inside, and also information that I've learned along the way of being a busy mum of two energetic boys and a fitness coach, as well as a competitive athlete myself. And that brings me to today's episode. It's a part of a series that I'm really passionate about, sharing the stories of inspiring women who prove that your circumstances don't define your limits. And today I'm joined by someone who truly embodies that. Sam from Innr Strength is a mum, a personal trainer, and a competitive powerlifter. She's someone who managed to juggle family life, running a business, training hard, and still showing up with incredible discipline and passion. And that's exactly why I wanted to have her on today's episode, because so many women believe that once you become a mum or once life gets busy, your own goals have to go to the back burner. But Sam is proof that you can still chase your strength, your passion, and your purpose, even while juggling all those roles that life throws at you. So today we're going to talk about how her fitness journey began, how she found powerlifting, and what life looks like balancing motherhood, coaching, and competing, and the mindset that keeps her motivated. I'm really passionate about this series about women lifting other women up, because we often see the outsides and see all the highlights, and I think it is really worthwhile listening to hear what it's like from the person themselves. So let's dive in. Hey Sam, and welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
That's okay. I'm really excited to share this story, as we briefly just spoke about prior to pressing the record button, just sharing the good, bad, and ugly from, I guess, the time you started to obviously, I've been watching you and seeing how successful you've been juggling everything. So I guess where we start is, how did your journey all start? Like, how did your fitness journey start? Take us back to the beginning in terms of, obviously you're a mum, you compete in powerlifting, which is where I started watching you and seeing how inspiring you are for many, and obviously noticed that you were also a coach. So how did this fitness journey all start?
I dabbled a little bit in like sport and stuff when I was younger, but that kind of fizzled out when I got into high school. And then, I've done a few random like boot camps and had gym subscriptions and stuff throughout my life, but never consistently stuck with anything. And then I think post having kids, and I'm sure a lot of mums can agree that you kind of get caught up in the whirlwind of being a mum and don't really give back much to yourself. And a lot of the mental health side of things as well, I decided that I wanted to start moving, and that literally started in my living room at home with like a 3-kilo set of dumbbells. Like that was my starting point, and that was enough for me at that time. And then as it progressed, I wanted to give myself a little bit more, and I wanted to take it a little bit further. And then I got just off Marketplace, like a cheap set of like a cheap barbell and some weights, and I moved it down to the garage, and I started doing a little bit more, and then realized I'm really seeing like progress, and I want to take it that next step further. And that kind of it kept growing from that point. But it literally all just started me moving to the best of my ability in that moment, having 3 young kids at home. It was like middle of COVID as well.
Wow.
But yeah, that's kind of when my journey started.
See, that's crazy, because that just like proves to everything that we've spoken about even prior to pressing record on today's episode, is that like even just watching you and hearing that that's when it started and how it started, like you would never even imagine that. Like you are so strong, and you would assume, like, even just watching, even me, I'd assume that you've been doing this for a lot longer, but that is so inspirational to know that, like, what COVID was almost like 7-8 years ago, but knowing that you can just start there and just, I guess, going with it and seeing where it takes you.
Yeah,
So
and just growing from that.
yeah.
That is where I started. And then my progression, I feel like, happened pretty like quickly because it was like a pretty fast-paced thing, you know, like, I mean, not quickly because that at-home training lasted for a little while, but I think once I stepped foot into a gym, my like growth and progression towards like powerlifting happened pretty quick.
Yeah, yeah. And how did that fall into place? So I guess like, once you sort of outgrew the shed, like where and how? I guess I can't even put that in words. I'm so like taken back, but where and how did that sort of fall into the journey?
To be honest, I honestly thought I would never step foot in a gym. I was like, I had my basic little setup at home, and I was like, I don't need anything more than this. I can train when I want. I've got no one watching me. I can like just do whatever I need in my safe space. And I was like, I don't think
Yes.
I'll ever step foot in a gym. I guess at that point I didn't really need more. But I guess we all kind of get to that point where we're like, well, now I want a little bit more. Like, what does that mean? And I actually had a friend at the time, so I think like having a buddy, a little like safe buddy to do this with. She kind of said, oh, I want to train in a gym. I was like, oh yeah,
Yes.
like I guess I do too, but like I've got my little setup at home. And the other thing was finding like a suitable gym with a creche as well, because that can be a hard thing. And then there were gyms with creches, but having 3 kids that I need to put in it, I was like, that the fees on that is going to cost me more than like
What
my
it's worth.
membership, because
Yeah.
that's another like factor as well. And then just like the thought around getting 3 kids out of the house, that's that added extra that mums have to add on top. It's not just you taking yourself to the gym. Like when you've got small kids, it's taking them along with you, which leaving the house can be like pretty daunting at times, especially when they're that young.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, I agree.
but I found a gym that had a free creche. So I was like, yep, okay, it's perfect. Let's do it. And we went and we trained together. And then she got a new job and was like, I can't train anymore. I was like, oh, so I've got to do this by myself. And I remember the moment I think she had to cancel on me like that morning. And I'm like, but I was already set up to go to the gym. And I just said, you know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this by myself. I'm going to just get my headphones. I'm going to put them on and I'm going to walk in that gym and I'm going to do it. And I did. And after that, I was like, you can do this. Like you just went to the gym by yourself. And I know like now looking back at it, like I can walk into any gym and feel pretty confident. But like in that moment, that was a massive step for me. And once I did that, I was like, I can do this. Um, so I signed up. Shout out to Snap in Tuggerah because that was where this all kind of started for me.
Yeah,
But I remember
wow.
walking in there and I kind of already had a bit of a base because I had been training at home. And one of the owners, he came up to me and he was like, welcome to the gym. He's like, you're pretty strong. Like you look like you know what you're doing. Do you have any goals? And I'd seen bits and pieces of like powerlifting on social media. And I
Yeah.
kind of like had heard about it, but didn't really know what it was about. And I kind of said to him, I was like, oh, I've seen this powerlifting thing. I was like, I don't know, maybe I want to work towards doing that. And he was like, well, we actually do a little in-house fun comp here. And I was like, oh, okay, like that sounds okay. I was like, when are you doing it? He's like, in a couple months. And I was like, oh, no, 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 I can't. That's way too soon. That's way too soon. I was like, I'll
Yeah.
do the next one. And then the more convincing, he was like, just do it. And I did it. And that's kind of where I was like, that was awesome. Like, I want to do that again. And so then I just looked into like the next comp and did a couple more comps, and then obviously followed the path of competing like in a federated comp.
Yeah, wow. See, that just absolutely like I'm just sitting here kind of going, wow, that just it just blows you away. And when you all started that, what was it like how young were your kids then?
I think when I joined the gym, I think my youngest would have been 2 maybe, because she was like born like right before COVID. So she was probably about 2, and then my middle one, he's 2 years older, so 4, and then 6. It's about two,
Oh,
4, and 6, like
wow.
around those ages.
And they're like I have two boys myself and 5 and 8, and those ages and three, like that's incredible. And I feel like so many women out there can definitely just be inspired just by that last mouthful, like in terms of, you never thought you'd step foot in a gym, like, and then look at you now. Like it's so incredible to hear the raw background. Nobody sees that. Like I wouldn't have even imagined that you were intimidated to walk into a gym.
Oh yeah,
Um,
100%.
Yeah, it's so crazy. And then like I guess becoming a coach, how did that come about? You know, obviously having the younger kids and sort of dabbling into fitness, always being in and out of, you know, somewhat whether it's sport or keeping active, but becoming a personal trainer yourself, like how did that come about into your fitness journey?
So I did have, when I was training at home, just like my close sort of friends, they sort of suggested like, would you want to become a personal trainer? I was like, oh no, 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 like I'm just happy doing my thing at home. Like I've got no interest in training other people. Like I'm just doing this for me. And then I think after I joined the gym and like, you know, we had a pretty like tight little community group there. And I think just as I had my own progression and I felt the like benefits to me and my confidence and everything that came with it, the initial thing was, well, I want to help other mums feel like this. So that was kind of
Yes.
my original, like, I need other mums that go through what I went through, the experience of, say, like feeling like you're just running on empty a lot of the times and you put yourself on the back burner, and then giving back to yourself and the confidence and growth that came with that. I was like, I need to help other mums experience that and grow the confidence within that. And then, that sort of eased off. And I was like, I just need to help people. I need to help people get confident within themselves. And I feel like a lot of that for me came from the gym. So I'm like, if they've got an interest in training and getting stronger in the gym, then that's going to benefit them so much on the outside as well.
Yes, like hearing you say that so much already, like we have so much in common in terms of like I'm always saying to like a lot of people is that what you learn in the gym, and I feel like over the 15 years of me being in the industry is that I've now seen so many times is what you learn in the gym, and you're a prime example of this, is that it relays out into the real world, the
Yeah,
confidence, you might fail this, one lift once, but it doesn't mean that, that's the end of it. And I guess a lot of people forget that those moments that build you stronger are actually moments that you take out into the real world when life gets hard and you go, you know what, it's not going to be this hard forever. Like I'm going to get through
yeah,
this thing and so forth. That's so amazing just to hear your journey so far up until this point in terms of and how successful you are as well within the powerlifting sport, within being a coach. And it clearly just goes to show like how passionate you are in terms of like it kind of changed your life and
yeah.
you're changing others as well.
Oh,
um
thank you.
no, well, I just seen it, and like as I said, and that's why, before we press record, that's why I reached out, because I was like, from what you see, you would just, and it's human nature, like, we all do it as much as we know that we shouldn't. Like people assume, oh wow, like, she's got it all together. She must have been doing this for years, or I'm never going to be as strong as that, or whatever it might be, assumption wise, it's only human nature. I think everybody does it. And I feel like to hear that raw side of it and people go, even if they're listening and they're, might be just walking outside listening to our episode today and realize that, I can start with 3 kilo dumbbells in my lounge room. Like I
Yeah,
don't have to go to
exactly.
a gym. Like
Exactly.
that can be enough, and if it isn't, you can expand, you can grow. Like you don't have to feel that you, I guess, fixed to something, or you have to join a gym, or you have to do it a certain way. So I feel like that is so inspiring for so many people that will listen. But I guess the other part that I feel a lot of people could benefit is juggling. So obviously you touched on getting out of the house with 3 kids. My hats off to you, like getting out of the house with two is definitely hard.
Yeah.
But juggling that work, and then when you obviously started competing in a federation and realized that you're quite strong, juggling those three things, and I'm assuming study was in there as well. ha- like how did you manage all of that?
Oh, like some days you feel like you're cruising through, you're like, yes, I've got this. Other days it seems like you don't. And that's like, I guess that's all part of it. I think just surviving, just getting through each day, and doing the best you can, and like making sure you're obviously like spreading yourself across everything you need to, and still focusing on like being there for your kids, but also making sure you're on top of your work. And then if you're in a prep like that, obviously adds. It's added pressure because you know that like these sessions mean a little bit extra than what they do when you're just training outside of a prep. Um, so think it's just doing my best, but also making sure that I'm like reminding myself that it's okay to not be doing my best some days and kind of be a bit kinder to myself that some of us might be taking on a lot more than others. Some of us don't have the ability to just wake up, get ourselves ready, go to the gym, come home, meal prep. Like that might mean staying up a little bit later. Or so I think it's just reminding yourself that we can only do our best and that's not going to be the same every day.
I absolutely love that, hearing what you said, because I feel that, juggling so many balls, and I feel like the pressure that you put on yourself, especially, I guess, being a mum, because you're a mum first, right? That you can't predict what's going to happen. But
Yeah.
then you run a business, and these other people that, you're building their confidence, you're changing their life, also rely on you. It's a lot. And I feel like that, what, like, just doing your best and knowing what that is each day is important, rather than, beating yourself up or whatever it might be, like added pressure, because, you can only juggle so many things before something falls.
Yeah.
So
So I think it's also making sure you're not overloading your plate as well, because that's what's like we've all got a maximum capacity that we can reach, and we don't want it to all come crashing down. So it's like making sure you're taking care of yourself and not overloading your plate, because then the whole house just comes crashing down.
yeah, and I feel like, obviously running a business, 3 kids, and lifting, is it, when you say knowing like what is too much, is it, what advice do you have for others? And I feel like I'm very intrigued on this too, because I feel like I can go from taking on a lot to then going, fuck, I need a whole day to recuperate because it's been months of overloading. How do you manage and know what is too much for you? Like, I guess you studied obviously amongst all of this, as well as, prepping, and now, you're juggling mum business and, your own training. How do you know when it's too much or when to say no? Because I feel like that's the other thing. People compare themselves, or in terms of what you said earlier, in terms of going, oh, this person's doing this much and, whatever. How do you manage that? Like knowing when it's enough?
I feel like for me, an obvious indicator when I'm like taking on too much is definitely like my mental health. Like when I am in this like heightened state that I just can't get out of, and I just feel like my day from like morning to night is trying to remember and be on top of everything and get to where I need to be, and I'm just like losing my shit so much easier, and I'm not enjoying the time with my kids, and like that's a massive like, okay, I need to pull back because I can't snap out of this. Like we're gonna have days
Yeah.
like that, but I feel like when the days just roll into the next and you just feel like everything is mentally too much, that's when I'm like, okay, like what can I sort of ease back a little bit on to make myself feel like I can just breathe again and just like take a moment to enjoy life, like not feel like it's all getting too much. That's when I'm like, okay, where do I need to just pull back a little bit?
Yeah. And I feel like that is so empowering for so many, because I feel like that expectation, and again, it's getting back to human nature, and I guess, the way that the human mind works, and comparison and all those sorts of things that go on with mental health, is that like, just as a mum, yourself, I feel like, you look at others and you're like, I'm not doing enough, like, this person, da 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 da, and all that added pressure. So I feel like that is so inspiring to hear from watching you, and knowing that, okay, yep, you still have those moments where you have to go, hey, like, this is enough, because I'm not giving my all to the things that really matter and enjoying your life.
Yeah.
So I feel like that is so empowering for so many people to hear. And I guess, how do you manage, like, seeing your powerlifting journey and been watching it for a while now? Is it, how do you manage to stay on top of your prep, like when you are in a prep, and still, run your business, be there for the clients, and still manage the 3 kids? Like, how do you fit all of that in? What does a typical week look like?
Oh, my weeks, like they vary from like week to week, but I mean generally they're the same, like the same chaos. They're just, I guess, spread across the days a bit different.
Yeah.
And some weeks I don't always get my sessions in, and that used to really like get on top of me because I was just like, I'm not doing enough. Like, how can I not be getting my sessions in? And then again, I just like took a step back and was like, it's okay as long as I'm getting in what I can. And ideally in a prep, that's not great because we know we need to kind of be
Yeah.
hitting our sessions. But I was just structuring it that I was getting the most out of the sessions that I could do. So I think
Yeah.
for me, that's a big part is like, and I think that just comes with experience. We're going to be, I mean, we're going to be hard on ourselves in different ways. I feel like when we're first starting out, we want to be like, we want to be ticking everything. And then it's kind of along the path, kind of realize like, it's not always going to be like that. So we need to learn how we can make sure we're getting the most out of our sessions, and being the most prepared we are in terms of like nutrition stuff when life does get too crazy, and just figuring it out along the way. And you kind of get a bit, I guess, experience in juggling what we can when shit's just too chaotic.
Yeah. Yep. And I think that's really important too, because I feel like I love it how you said, like, you know, even as a coach yourself, that you went through that rigmarole of, you know, going, I'm not getting my sessions in, like, you know, and you obviously you tell other people too, and you know that the importance of it, but being able to come back from that and kind of knowing, okay, well, I might not be getting everything in, but I'm getting in what's important. I think that that's a really huge takeaway in terms of, you know, like, again, coming from somebody that has just reached out and from watching, is that I feel like that is so important for so many people that are listening, is that, you know, there's going to come a time where it's okay if you don't do everything, like, as you said, ticking the boxes. Just know that do what's important when you can.
Yeah, exactly. I think having people around you that also understand, especially having a coach that understands that, you know, what every week, like I'm a busy mum, like every week is going to look so different for me, and being on board with like understanding that as well helps.
Yeah.
Like having people in your corner, and that's what, you know, like I always tell people, especially when they're like starting out, like bring on a new client, I'm like, let's set the expectations at what we know we can achieve, so you
Yes.
feel like you're getting to the end of the week and you've ticked those boxes, because we all know like ticking off to-do lists, like it feels good. When they're left unticked, we're like, you know, we feel like we haven't achieved what we need to. So it's like lower the expectations to what we can actually achieve. And then as we build that momentum, then we can start increasing things. But it's, you know,
Yeah.
you want to really focus on the things we can do without getting to a point where we just feel like, what's the point? Because we're not getting it done.
Yeah. No,
Like
I feel
setting the
like
bar a
that.
little bit lower.
Yes. Yes, I definitely love that. And I guess you, as a coach as well, would have experienced like a lot of people coming in and going, you know, like, two's not enough, like I need to do more or whatever. And, you know, like again, I feel like so much in common with you already is that, you know, it's always about doing just that little bit less than what you know, think. So then you ticking those boxes. So you're getting momentum from feeling like you've achieved something. And to hear that you say in your own life that that's exactly what you do to juggle 3 kids, a business, and your own training, I think that's super inspiring, because I feel that people think that we're a different breed, but we're just
Yeah.
the same,
Yeah, exactly.
literally just the same. And I feel like the other thing that I really wanted to speak to you about is motivation versus discipline, and get another view on this, because I feel like, you know, again, it's that human nature. They look at you and go, oh, you must always be just so motivated. I wish I had your motivation. Yet, you know, discipline is obviously bigger than the motivation, as we both know. But what, I guess, what's your opinion on motivation and discipline?
Oh, the amount of times I've had someone say to me, like, you are so motivated, I don't know how you do it. And I've literally turned around and be like, I'm not. To be honest, I'm not motivated. And when I first started training at Snap, I went back to work, just a casual work while, you know, the kids were at school daycare. And so my only option was to go to the gym when I had put the kids to bed, which was 8 o'clock a lot of the nights. And I was like, there is no way I'm motivated at 8 o'clock at night to be driving to the gym right now. Like that is, you have to
Yes.
actually be a different breed of person to find that motivation when you've just worked and then come home and been a mum and then to get yourself in the car and drive to the gym. I was like, there's no motivation in that. So the amount of times I had to tell people like, no, I'm not motivated. Discipline, yes, because I had goals and I wanted to reach those goals. And the only way you're going to reach those goals is sticking to the plan and staying consistent. So, and even now, like, I think a lot of people don't realize, and not to say that every coach feels this way, but we kind of lose the opportunity where it's like we pack our bags and we're like, yeah, I'm going to go get a session in. Like we don't really get to go to the gym anymore. We are there, we're working, and then we train, or we fit it in between clients. So I think that's one thing I definitely would say I miss is that I don't ever really get to like get the opportunity to be like, oh, I feel like training. I'm going to go to the gym. Like I just get it done where I can. And, like slipping it in between clients or just getting it done before you've got to rush off to pick the kids up from school, like that motivation isn't there.
Yeah. No,
So
I definitely know where you're going. Like that is so true. Or like, oh, you're so lucky because you work at the gym. I don't know if you've heard that one before. It's like,
I
it must
have,
be
but
so
like,
easy.
and to be honest, I am grateful that I do because I think if I was in a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, I don't even know how I would fit it in around that. Like I would be dragging my kids to the gym of a nighttime 4 times a week or whatever it may be. So I think I'm definitely grateful that I've got the opportunity to get it done in between clients or whatever it may be. But it's also comes with its cost that you don't ever get to like separate the two.
Yeah, no, 100%. And that brings you to like obviously, that motivation versus discipline is that you're motivating others, and then in between there's that you've got to be disciplined enough to get in and do your own training because you have your own goals. So it's never really about motivation. It's always about, like as you said, if this is the plan and this is my goal and I want to achieve it, I need to execute it to the
Yeah,
best of my ability.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah, wow. And lessons from strength training, right? Like I know myself, like it's kind of taught me a lot about, failure and success and how they're not opposites. They're, you've got to learn to fail to succeed. And it doesn't mean that, you're any less of anything. What lessons have you learned in strength training? Obviously, as we said, the 3 kilo dumbbells in the lounge room to then lifting for a federation on a platform. Um, Such an extreme, but what lessons has it taught you?
I think it just shows that, you can do the hard shit. Like if you give it a go and it doesn't matter where your journey starts, it's going to be different for everyone else. For everyone, like, everyone's journey is going to start somewhere. Um, but that's like what we are actually capable of pushing ourselves because I think we don't give ourselves enough credit. And, our brain always kind of kicks in first, telling us that things are hard or we can't do it. And I think when you actually challenge yourself and that can, come back to strength training where it's like, I'm not going to be able to do that weight. There's absolutely no way. And then you go and do it. So it teaches you that we can do the hard things
Yeah.
and to let ourselves experience it, whether we do it the first time or not. At least we are that step closer to achieving something just by giving it a go.
Yeah, no, I love that because, like, obviously in strength training, especially powerlifting, is that you work for months for, a small increase on the barbell sometimes, and you've got to be patient, and you might fail lifts, but the biggest lesson, and I feel like that, again, that is so empowering to take away from today's conversation is that you can do the hard things, and that
Yeah,
you've just got to try.
exactly. Yeah.
And I feel like there is so many women who feel like they can't start because life is already so busy. What would you say to a mum that's listening who feels like she's lost herself a little bit? Like, or someone that just wants to get stronger but feels intimidating walking into a gym. What advice would you give to these other women that might feel stuck or tired? And I feel like referring back to your first thing where they feel like they've lost themselves.
Yeah.
Advice would you give to them?
Yeah, well, firstly, I mean, trying to find the time and stuff, like I get that. And that whole, everyone has the same 24 hours is a load of crap, because everyone doesn't. It can be so much harder for some people. So finding the time, that comes with its own challenge. And that's where I go back to like lower the expectations. Like, in this moment in time, what can you actually achieve? Because it's not going to be this way forever, like going back to when I started, like, and I had my kids were a lot younger. Like, I got in what I could at that time. I started at where I could, and then my life has changed, obviously, a lot, and my kids are getting older and things get easier, but they also get harder because they pick up other activities and so on. So I think it's starting where you can, and knowing that, and don't compare yourself, because you not being able to get in 4 sessions a week, but that other person can, like, you don't know what their situation is, you don't know what their circumstances, so you start where you can. And in terms of like losing yourself, that's going back to like, that's where my journey started, because I feel like I'd felt like, who am I? Like, I am a mum, and that's all I am. And
Yeah.
what can I do to start like giving back to myself? Because it goes back to the whole, you've got to fill your cup up first. If you're feeling completely empty, like, how can you then show up to be a good mom or a partner or a friend or whatever that may be? So I think it's like, it's okay to lose ourselves, because we are going to lose ourselves to some extent when we're becoming a mum. It's a whole new life, like, milestone that we're entering. So it's okay to lose ourselves, but then you also need to acknowledge when it's time to give back to yourself, so you can start showing up and really just feeling like you're, I don't want to use the word selfish, but like, we're allowed to be selfish. We're allowed to start, putting ourselves first at some point, because we're doing it to benefit everything around us.
Yeah, no, I feel like that is so, so powerful. I always say you can't pour from an empty cup. It doesn't matter who you're pouring to, whether it's your dearest loved ones, whether it's your partner, or whoever it is. If your cup is empty, you've got nothing left to pour. So I
Yeah,
feel like that is so so powerful. And I feel like that, like, if and if anyone's listening and you don't take away anything else, I feel like you need to rewind and re-listen to that and re-listen to that again, because the comparison is just a thief of joy. And yeah, hearing you say that, I feel like other people listening that have watched your journey as well, and like, when this podcast goes live, is that I feel like hearing that come out of your mouth, as well as, they might have heard it before, but sometimes it hits differently, and doing what you can look so different to others. And do not compare that. If that's the best that you can do, be happy, be proud that you're doing something.
yeah.
I feel like that's so, so empowering.
And I think, for like, going back to your other question about, women that feel intimidated walking into a gym, because I feel like, especially, like, it's intimidating walking into a new space, and especially if we haven't trained before, like, walking and feeling like you're not going to know what you're doing or where to start or what to do, like, that's scary in itself. But I think people don't realize that as a mum, like, we spend so much of our time spending time with our kids in this little bubble, that we also kind of forget to socialize to some extent. Like, we forget how to have that like adult conversation, and we're not like around adults and other people as much as we once were. So that's like, just even the thought of like conversation and socializing and, dealing with people can be quite intimidating as well. So I think it's finding a space that you feel comfortable in. Like, it does not have to be the biggest gym in your area. You find the space, like for me, you start in your lounge room, or you find a small gym, or whatever style of training you like. I think you feeling comfortable and safe in that space will make it so much easier. Because if you walk into a space and you're scared and intimidated, and you walk away feeling like it was too overwhelming, the chances of you wanting to step back into that space in that time is going to be like not as likely as if you walk away feeling like you just had the best experience and you're itching to go back.
Yeah, no, that is so true. And yeah, I feel like people forget that, is that, that adult conversation, that adult interaction, especially, like a lot of the women that, I come across or whatever, are the women that have just, become a new mom, or, have experienced life-changing situations, or they might just be a homebody and they want to, you know, get out of, they don't necessarily have to, you know, have kids to have that sort of like, you know, I guess issue socializing. And
Yeah.
that's never really touched on, you know, when going into a gym is like, as I said, that struggle of being able to interact and knowing, you know, how to. So I
Yeah,
feel
because
like
that
that,
can be that
yeah.
anxiety that you're dealing with. That can be enough to be the barrier that's stopping you going.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I feel like a couple of fun questions, because I feel like there's so much good takeaways from what you've spoken about. And again, I appreciate you so much for coming on to the podcast, because I feel like, again, as I said, if one or two people listen to this and it changes their life, I feel like that impact is enough in itself. But just some fun things is, what lift do you love the most? Just out of curiosity, when you got into powerlifting, is it squats, bench, or deads?
I think now that is definitely dependent on which one I feel like is moving the best. So that can change from week to week. When I first started training at home, to be honest, I hated squats. I could not do them. I didn't I didn't touch bench until I started powerlifting. I didn't even really know what bench was. And then when someone's like, yeah, you have to bench, I was like, oh, whoa, what's that lift? So I had to like learn that from yeah, I was like, well, if I'm going to compete in powerlifting, I've got to learn how to bench press. And then so deads were probably in the beginning my strongest because I did them the most at home. But
Yeah.
now I'd probably say bench, even though it is the most mentally like frustrating lift, because obviously the progression is a lot slower than your squats and your deads. It is the one where I feel like when it moves well and I'm like feeling strong in it, I walk away feeling like super badass.
Yeah. No, that is so cool, because it's like that, just that in itself explains your journey to a T. Like, it's kind of like, you know, whatever you're comfortable in, and then it's like, now that you've got so much more discipline, that, you know, the rewards that you get from bench are so much more meaningful.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, no, that's crazy that you've never touched bench.
No,
That's the
I was
best.
just like, I mean, like, I don't know if a lot of women can agree, but it's not one lift we walk in the gym being like, yeah, I can't wait to bench press. But I feel like when women get to bench, they're like, yeah, I dig this.
Yeah. No, I actually, now you said that, I've never really, in this whole entire time that I've been in the industry, I've never really thought of it like that, but you are 100% correct. No woman that I've ever trained ever has walked in and been like, yeah, can't wait to bench press.
Yeah.
I've never
But then I
thought
feel
about
like
it.
once you get them under the bar, they're like, no, I love this lift.
Yeah, no, you're 100%. And I guess, what current goal are you working towards now when it comes to the sport? But like, obviously you are very strong and you are very good at it. So what are you currently working towards in powerlifting at the moment?
I think with a powerlifting, we're obviously forever chasing numbers, and then we hit that number, and then we're chasing the next number. Um, so you've always got a number in mind. At the moment, I'm 4 weeks out from a comp, but I'm not getting too many numbers in my head because I'm not trying like I sort of took not a step away from training, but I did nationals last year and I kind of didn't get back into the heavy stuff as soon as I would have normally in the past. So I did have a bit of a step back from lifting heavy. Like I was still going to the gym, I was still training. I was just not really focusing on pushing any big numbers. So it's taken a little bit longer to get back into the swing of things. So this comp, we've just decided we're going to pull back a little bit and just focus on hitting some numbers that I'm pretty confident with, just in the hopes to qualify for nationals. So I guess that would be my goal, is qualifying for nationals. But also I'm really chasing a 70 kilo bench. So that's like, if I had to
Secretly.
say like one number, I'm like, it's my 70 kilo bench that I'm
Yeah.
chasing. But yeah, just getting enough to qualify for nationals, and then hopefully being able to push that little bit harder, just having a little bit more time.
Yeah, no. And I think, again, that's in itself like kind of another huge takeaway, is that it's okay to, you know, be goal driven and step away and you can still come back. So that's really, like, again, really empowering, and taking that pressure off yourself on the platform, I think, is huge. You know, I guess I've only been competing with or APL since APU closed down. Since I think 2023 was my first comp, and I feel like the pressure that you put on yourself as well with it, the mental load that you carry everywhere else is something that people don't usually see as well. So just hearing you say that, going onto the platform and being confident, having goals, but, not putting that pressure on yourself that it's not the end of the world if, that 70 kilo bench doesn't move. So
Yeah. And as much as I'd love to say I don't put the pressure on myself, I definitely do. And I need to remind myself because it's, I'm especially this prep, I'm like, oh my God, I'm nowhere near what I was, say, before nationals. Like I'm not hitting the numbers that I thought I would be a year later, but also reminding myself that like my goals did change and things happen in life that kind of, it's not always going to be that moving forward. Those numbers aren't always going to increase on the bar. Like sometimes we go backwards to move forwards. Like even just changing coaches, changing technique changes within your lifts. Like there's always going to be little setbacks, but they're usually the things that are going to help us push harder in the future.
100%. Yeah. Sometimes the step backwards again isn't failing, and I think that's another huge takeaway is that step back can make you take another 2 steps forward.
Yeah.
So that's really inspiring. So I feel like, is there any other advice that you want to give to anyone that's listening that might, benefit from within their journey wherever they may be, before we finish up today's episode?
I mean, I think we've covered a lot of stuff in this episode anyways, but I think the main thing is like everyone's journey is different. Yeah, like you said, comparing yourself can be such a thief, and I think it's just making sure that you're focusing on where you are, and in your time and where you're starting, and that everyone's rate of progression, everyone's situations, everyone's circumstances, they're all different. So trying to just like have tunnel vision on your own journey and reach out to people that can help you. Like if you're nervous, reach out to a coach, like reach out to the people that can support you, because having people in your corner makes a massive difference.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with everything that you said today, and even just hearing your story, I'm sitting here going like, wow, that's so inspiring. So I feel like there's so many takeaways, and I'm sure I'm going to wrap it up, and I can't wait. I don't generally re-listen to my podcast, but I actually can't wait to go back and re-listen, because there's a few parts that I actually want to re-listen to what you've said, because I feel like it's so empowering just to remember that and take pressure off yourself and remember that it's okay to do what you can. And yeah, no, I just thank you so much again for coming on to today's episode. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm sure that, throughout the journey, I'm sure that there'll probably be many other things that I might just go, oh, I could actually, get Sam on the episode for this. And I hope that, people share that they're listening, just so we can see that the lives that we're changing. So thank you for your time today, Sam. I appreciate it.
No, thank you. I appreciate you having me on, and I'm more than happy to jump back on whenever you want to have a bit of a catch-up chat.
Yeah, I love it. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wow, what a conversation. I feel like me and Sam could have spoke for so long about so many of those things. So I really want to do a massive shout out to Sam for coming on to Real Talk Fitness with AMPT. I'm very, very grateful that she could share her story today. I think what stands out the most from today's conversation is that strength isn't just about numbers on the bar. Like everybody's story is so different. It's about the resilience, it's about showing up, and it's about proving to yourself that you're capable of more than what you thought. So for anyone listening, and especially mums, Sam's story is a reminder that you don't have to give up your goals just because life gets busy. You're allowed to grow. Things aren't always going to be the same. So what feels hard now, do what you can. It won't always feel that way. And you're allowed to be that little bit selfish and chase what's going to fill your cup up. And you're allowed to be proud of yourself. And the other biggest takeaway is that comparison. Like a lot of what we spoke about, and I can 100% relate to that, is comparison is the thief of joy, and everybody's circumstance is different. It's about doing the best that you can, and Sam spoke about that, is that the best might look different depending on where you are in different stages of your life, but it won't always look that way. So thank you again, Sam, for coming onto the podcast. And for anyone listening, if this podcast has resonated with you, please share it. It's all about helping other people improve themselves to become a better and healthier, happier version of them. whatever that might look like. So if we can just impact 1 or 2 people's lives, we're making a difference. So make sure you like and subscribe to our podcast. I will be obviously interviewing a lot more women that I find that are inspiring, and that it's really good to hear their journey as well. So until next time, guys, keep it real and look after yourself. We'll see you in the next episode.